welcome to the Gay Agenda. I'm a certified lesbian. It's 2018. So, you know what we're doing? We're discussing some homosexual activity up in this bitch. So, buckle up. I remember the exact moment where I was all like, oh, I like girls, was I'm talking so quietly because my parents are home. I remember the exact moment though is when I went to go see Deadpool and Negasonic Teenage Warhead came on in all of her like lesbian glory with her shaved head and like her beautiful mutant powers, like all of that. And I was all like, you can blow me up with your mutant powers whenever you want, sweetie. Call me, I have feelings for you. But that's beside the point. That we're talking about coming out here. We're talking about realizing that we are gay, not straight. I was a very oblivious child. I grew up in like a household that, you know, being gay and like stuff like that wasn't really talked about because it's frowned upon. Because I have a very conservative Latino dad and a not homophobic, but she is kind of disgusted by gay people mom. You know, that type of person. And not to bash my parents. My parents are great. They just are homophobic. It's a tedious line we walk in this household, okay? You have a simple relationship with your parents, you must be heterosexual. That's not to say that you can't have a nice relationship with your parents that isn't complicated if you're a homosexual or like LGBT. I'm just making a joke. So basically, for the longest time, I did not know what a gay person was, not until this kid in 6th grade was all like, Isabella, you're such a dyke. And the way they said it, I like knew it wasn't like the greatest thing to be called. So like, of course, I like had my favorite teacher. She was my math and science teacher and her name was Mrs. Sharon. And she was so great. And she was my fave. And I went up to her after the math period and I was all like, so listen. Alyssa, this bitch, this hoe, called me a dyke, and I don't know what that means. And this teacher is just like, gets this look on her face like, honey. Like, ooh, honey, I don't want to sit here and explain this to a 12-year-old. I'm tired. I don't get paid enough for this. But she did. She's like, oh, a dyke is a lady who likes other ladies. And I was all like, oh, well, that's like not a big deal at all. What? The only thing is like, well, I don't like ladies. What? Lies? Weird, huh? Not me. Not in my heterosexual household. Psst. But like at the same time, when I was like 10 through like 12, I found no guys attractive and I thought I was so cool because all my other friends were like drooling over boys. They were all like, oh my gosh, Johnny is so hot. And I was over there like, you can drool over Johnny all you want. I'm gonna sit here and rewatch Star Wars 1,000 times because I love Luke Skywalker. But he's like, Luke Skywalker was like the only boy that like I found actually attractive, which can someone please tell me why like all of the gays, all of the lesbians have like some sort of like obsession towards Luke Skywalker? Like, what is it? Did we just see his like Tatooine farm boy outfit and we were all like, that is a queer man? I don't know, but like I was obsessed with him and he was the only boy that I truly liked. Which is, it's sad. I know. Okay, we're gay here. We have tragic backstories. So yeah. For the longest time, I was just like not boy crazy at all. And then I think what happened was Tyler Glenn of Neon Trees. If you don't know this band, it's probably because you're not a dweeb like me. I'm kidding. I love Neon Trees. But basically, I was obsessed with Neon Trees for the longest time. And the frontman, Tyler Glenn, came out. And he was all like, I'm gay. And he was just so open about it. And he like said all this stuff. And like I somehow like learned more. And like I remember driving in the car with their new album like Pop Psychology blasting and Living in Another World came on, and if you haven't heard that song you need to check it out. And I remember sitting there and like something in my soul moved. Something happened where I was all like, do I like girls? Because for the longest time like I had weird like I don't know. I always had like a weird sort of relationship with like how I viewed people in general. Like I never felt like I was like other girls, which is so cliche, but I swear to you, it's so true. For the longest time I felt so weird because like I didn't really like boys. Like I didn't like it wasn't just like a cooties thing, like being like a kid. Like I just didn't really find any like attraction towards them at all. And like the thought of like being like kissing boys and stuff like that, like when you watched movies and like, Disney movies where like the princess always ended up with the prince, I was all like, that's lame. I don't want that. And I just thought I was weird for the longest time. No, honey, you're just a lesbian. So yeah, like that summer of like when that came out and I started questioning, I was all like, well, I might be bisexual because I know that that was the whole thing. I've been hearing about bisexuality. I knew you could like both genders, and so I was like, well, maybe I'm bisexual. Maybe that's a thing. That's a thing that I'm gonna have to roll with. And so I planned. I remember going to my first day of seventh grade, and I was all like, I'm gonna get myself a girlfriend, and I did. I did get myself a girlfriend, kind of. And she was really cool, and she had like purple streaks in her hair, and I thought she was the coolest person on the planet. Like, oh my gosh. And she had like the coolest music taste and like wore the coolest clothes and had these really cool knee high socks that like my mom would never let me wear because she thought they were too sexual. But like, anyway, so I thought she was so cool. And we had plotted that when we got to school on like Tuesday or Monday, that we, in gym class, because that's the only period that we had together, we were gonna kiss. 13-year-old me had never been kissed before, so this was a big moment for me. This is a gay moment in my lifetime, and I was like freaking out about it. Like, but I wasn't freaked out about it until this girl turns to me and she's all like, okay, let's go to the back of this locker room and let's make fucking do this. And in that moment, when we're in the back of that locker room and she's leaning in to kiss me, I just realized I had not plotted out the mathematical, thing for like how do you kiss people. Like I never thought about it in that moment. And I was like, oh, I was so nervous. It was so bad. Like, 13-year-old me, you were a mess. But it's okay. Everyone has a weird first kiss. And it was a weird first kiss. And it was actually so bad. But, like, we were 13, so it's, like, not either of our faults. Everyone just has a really bad first kiss. So nothing against you, purple hair girl. I'm not going to say your name because that's mean. But after that I was like, well, maybe I don't like girls because like that kiss, like that wasn't that special, that wasn't that fun, so maybe I don't like girls. But like I was still questioning it, and so I wrote a letter to my parents because like I had a really trusting relationship with my parents at that point. Like they were always there for me, and I trusted them with everything, and so I wrote them a letter because I always find it's easier to write things than actually talk about them. So I wrote them this letter, and after I wrote it, I immediately regretted it. I'd left it on their nightstand, and my dad found it, and when he called me in to talk, I burst into tears, and I cried for like a straight 20 minutes. And after they finally calmed me down, they were like, oh, Isabella, it's just a phase. And it's just a phase. And so after that, I was like, oh, they're right. They must be right. They're my parents. And so I totally was all like, okay, well, I'm straight. For like a half of a year, I was telling myself, oh, I'm a heterosexual bitch now. I like Channing Tatum. I'm heterosexual. I think Ryan Gosling's cute. I cried during The Notebook. I listened to boy bands. And it was like totally awful because like the whole time, like as cliche as it sounds, I felt like I was repressing something. Like I knew deep down that I was like lying to myself, like something, wasn't great. It wasn't right. So then finally, I met my friend Bryn, who was a raging gay. And she still is a raging gay. And she opened my eyes to this whole thing, okay? She introduced me to the disaster that was the Tumblr spectrum. And for a long time, I could, like, the way that lesbian was said was always said like a curse word when it was around me, so I never wanted to be classified as lesbian. Like, I never wanted to, like, I knew I liked girls, but like I couldn't commit to it because I, like, deep down, like, when I thought about that, I don't know, something about it, I had such a deeply ingrained, like, lesbophobic mentality that I was always so scared to call myself a lesbian. Like, I went through so many labels. I called myself pansexual, and then I called myself bisexual. At some point, I called myself asexual because when I was calling myself bisexual and pansexual, I was all like, but I don't like boys. And I just didn't want to call myself a girl. But at the same time, when I thought about being with a guy, like, in any situation, I would have a panic attack. Like, straight up, I would, like, start crying. Like, it just devastated me. Which, no offense to boys, I'm sure a lot of them are lovely. I'm just a really big gay. So yeah, and it took me a while, and I knew I liked girls, but, like, I never wanted to say that I was a lesbian until I don't know what clicked. Like, for the longest time, I felt so kind of, like, disgusted by it. Like, I don't know, like, disgusted by myself, like there was something inherently wrong with me, or like made me more, like, dirty or something. I don't know, but I could never, like, get the feeling of, like, being gum on like the sole of a person's shoe. That's all I can describe it. I always felt like I was inherently inferior to, like, other people, and I, like, for the longest time it just made me so sad. Like, we talking about depression on this, what day is it? Thursday. I just had the worst voice crack on this Thursday night. And it wasn't, I don't know when, it was like a gradual thing. I couldn't tell you exactly what happened that made me go, oh yeah, I'm a lesbian. But I remember driving home one night from dance class, listening to Heaven by Troye Sivan. His album had just come out. I was 15, and I just was listening to those lyrics, and I just started crying in the car so hard. And my mom was like, well, what's wrong? What's wrong? And I couldn't tell her because I just, it's my mom. I can't tell her that, 'cause she wouldn't understand, obviously. I told her before and she didn't understand. And so I was just crying my eyes out, and she, like, couldn't figure out why. And I'm like, I'm just so sad. But, like, I wasn't sad. It was like a relieved sort of, like, deep, like, something changed in that car ride. And, like, when Troy was, like, singing counting to 15, counting to 15, that part, I was all like, oh fuck. So after that, I was all like, well, let's try this. Let's start, calling ourselves by this name, and let's, see how it goes. And labels, honestly, I get a lot of questions about it, like, people, like, struggling with labels. If you're struggling with labels, your feelings matter so much more than a label. Like, a label can be comforting. Like, for the longest time, I had that too. I thought I always needed a label to be considered, like, a valid, like, person that is in the LGBT community. Like, obviously everyone has all these fancy labels, like Tumblr. And I always thought I needed something like that to, like, cling to tell me, like, who I am. But, like, sexuality is weird. You need to listen to your feelings because they are truer to yourself and your personal experience than, like, any label will ever be. That's not to say that labels aren't good. I, like, take a lot of comfort in, like, calling myself a lesbian now that I'm comfortable with it. But for the longest time, if you're figuring out your sexuality, they can be more harmful than they are good. So watch out for that, my friends. Just listen to your heart, because it will never steer you wrong, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. And if you're struggling with that, just give it time. You have plenty of room to grow, okay? Just you're good. You're totally, take as much time as you need, and just be patient and gentle with yourself, okay? Ooh, we getting sappy and chatty. Anyway, so I started calling myself a lesbian when I was 15, and I got my first like real girlfriend when I was 15, and that was a whole other story that you don't need to know about, but we're still friends, and she's super sweet, and probably not watching this, but she's great. I love her. Not in that way, but she's great. Anyway, so that was the heaviest part of the video. Kind of. I don't know. I have more questions. Let's do a rapid fire. I got asked what my favorite gay celebrity was by Robin. These are all by Robin, but they're good talking points. My favorite gay celebrity is Lynn Gunn from the band Paris because she's a blessing and she's so cute. And I went to see Paris live, and I remember I was like, they opened for Fall Out Boy, and I was like one of the only people that was like losing their shit over this band because they were like not fairly new, but like most of the crowd was there for Fall Out Boy. And so they were kind of a lame crowd anyway. Like when Fall Out Boy came on, like a bunch of it was a mess, okay? But I remember Lynn Gunn was all like performing up there, and I remember screaming at the top of my lungs, "Lynn, I love you!" And when I said that, she just giggled so much. She giggled, guys. She giggled, and I almost cried. So, anyways, I love Lynn Gunn, and we had the same crush as a child. She says that she knew she was gay when she saw Penelope Cruz. Same. You know, watching Pirates of the Caribbean and watching that and seeing Keira Knightley and Penelope Cruz and just feeling in your soul like, oh my god. Like, Pirates of the Caribbean, I can never say it right, I'm so sorry. But it belongs to the gays, and that's all I have to say on that. So yeah, that's what I have to say. I got asked about coming out. I get a lot of baby gays. I don't know, people who are questioning their sexuality and like about coming out. And since it is Pride Month, it is kind of a bittersweet month. Like if you're out, it can be really, really fun. But if you're like me and you don't have the most supporting atmosphere, it can be really, really hard. So what I'm saying is I'm making this video mostly for if you're watching it, just know you're never really alone in what you're feeling, and you will reach a point one day where you will find people who are open and accepting and will love you and like all of your parts, because you are beautiful and worthy of that love, and like you just have to give it time, and like you know, you just have to give yourself space and like the room to understand yourself. Like I can't stress this enough. Like, I don't have the most supporting family, although I love them a lot. They don't support, like, you know, like all of the parts of me, but they love me, and I understand that. And they could be worse, but they could be better. So, you know, and if you're dealing with that, I understand how painful it can be. And like, what I'm getting at is you have to choose to live your life for yourself, because that's the only way you're ever really going to be happy, and people have to decide whether they want to be a part of that or not. And I know that's super hard and like super, super terrifying, but you are only on this earth for like a blip, okay? Like a short amount of time, and then you are gone. And you shouldn't be spending that time trying to be someone you're not, because who you are, as cliche as it is super, super, super beautiful, and you shouldn't, you know, be, you know, sacrificing that for the approval of like family members or friends, because in all honesty, the only person that matters at the very end of it, that you will have at the very end of like the day, is yourself, and you need to make yourself as comfortable with yourself as possible. So I'm gonna start crying. So basically what I'm saying is give yourself the room and patience and acceptance that you need, and the self-love that you like want, and like the beauty that you are seeking, and like your own identity and like your own label, like that will come with time, and it's a thing that you have to work on like every day. But just know you're never as alone as you feel, and and that's all I have to say on that, okay? And I just wish you a lot of luck and like a lot of love, and that's it. That's all I gotta say. Oh, we're gay messes on this Thursday. So yeah, that's all I got. Thanks for joining me, boys and ghouls, in this haunted house party. Thanks for putting up with my really smudged makeup and my weird lesbian stories. I have plenty more, and we can talk about being gay a lot more. I don't know how to do an outro. Thanks for joining me.